Then it's Susanne Lundin and her collaborator Rui Liu, who will, there you are, who will make a presentation. We have already presented Susanne, but you are a master in applied ethnology at Lund University and you're working closely together, I understand, in the same project. So, Susanne is going to start.
Yes, thank you very much.
And this is about fake medicines, what the public knows and what doctors say.
Right. Thank you. And today, this afternoon, we are going to present two studies, two pilot studies, and that's our team, our interdisciplinary team, from the medical sciences and from the cultural sciences. And some of us have previously done other studies on other forms of illegal medical phenomena. And if I just find the right, okay, because this is a book just published 2 days ago, so I would like to draw your attention to that. It's about not fake medicine, but about medical travel. And from that, we now take the step on further to medicines that travel. And the starting point for our interdisciplinary team is not very surprisingly. Its medicines are substances, of course, with powers to transform bodies, but they have other effects as well. Medicines do not only have pharmacological lives, they have social lives as well, between people, with people, and medicines are tokens of healings and hope, of course. And also we must consider that, as we heard a lot about today here this afternoon, that medicines are material things, they are products. And this means that pharmaceuticals are valuable commodities, and they go the way all other products go, to the market. And in a way, we can also say that health is a commodity, or more, the idea that almost any kind of illness requires medicines or buying medicines. So I will not deep further into that now, our cultural perspective, or more or less our medical, social, cultural perspectives. But these are the starting points for why we wanted to do the pilot studies, to look into who is buying, why are they buying, but also a study on what professionals are thinking about this kind of issues. And Ray, you are the one doing the presentation. You have to put here.
Hello, everyone. Now I'm going to present the results from our two surveys. So first of all, the survey with the public. We conducted the survey during April and May 2016, and we targeted both individuals and patient organizations in Sweden. Altogether, 155 answers were collected, with 3 of them in English, and we have over 90% of our respondents were Swedish nationality. With this survey, we aim to, first, understand how and where the Swedish public access their medicines, especially prescribed medicines. And second, we want to retrieve some information that the Medical Products Agency's report has not covered. For example, purchasing prescribed medicines abroad. And the main method we use is open-ended questions, so that we can encourage our respondents to freely express their ideas and opinions. It's also worth noting that since we want to grasp our respondents' first reaction while talking about their access to medicine, since this is quite a sensitive topic, we intentionally avoided the term falsified or illegal medicines in our survey. And in the following, I'm going to present some highlighted results along with some quotes, interesting quotes. First of all, where do you normally buy prescribed medicines? From the chart, we can see that a majority of people choose pharmacies, although it's not so clear for us if they are foreign pharmacies or Swedish pharmacies, are they authorized or not. We can also see there's a low acceptance of internet pharmacies. Interesting part is the 8 people, about 5% in the survey, choose to go to other sources. And these sources include acquaintances in Thailand, markets or shops abroad. Besides buying medicines on their own, there's actually another way people acquire prescribed medicines. That is to have friends or relatives living outside Sweden sending medicines over. And our survey shows that 8% of all respondents have done so, and 1 in 4 of them have immigrant background. Reasons that they do so include cheaper and more effective than medicines in Sweden, no prescriptions required, impossible to find on the Swedish market. The next question, when we ask if you think it necessary to consult medical professionals before purchasing and consuming prescribed medicines, a majority of people said yes, because they really need the medical expertise to tell them what kind of medicines can't be taken together. And doctors are mostly preferred when it comes to the most serious illness, followed by nurses, pharmacists, and websites such as Wikipedia and e-doctors. Mobile apps did not appear in any of the comments. We also have some respondents ironically explains why they don't think such consultations necessary. For example, had experiences with doctors in several situations, had prescribed medicines that would cause, for example, conflicts with other medicines I'm used to take. Don't rely on the system we have in Sweden when it comes to supervisions of patients' medicine use. From this quote, we can see that there's a sense of distrust of doctors, while on the other hand, patients have some medical knowledge. And then, along with the distrust and also the general level of spread of medical knowledge, some patients mentioned getting a prescription requires consultation with doctors, but I often read on my own before the consultation. We call this is the act of self-diagnosis. And the same person goes on and then asks for the medicines I want. So till now, we can see medical expertise has, to some extent, been instrumentalized. About this logo, we also placed some questions about it. And our results show similar results as the Medical Products Agency's result, that 2/3 of all our respondents do not recognize the symbol. But the interesting part is when we ask, do you think it matters when you buy medicines online? We have mixed perceptions, and a majority of them give us a really firm yes or a standard answer like this one. If I would buy prescribed medicines online, it matters, probably not otherwise. Meanwhile, there are answers that show a sense of skepticism, not directly towards this logo or internet pharmacies, but to the general internet shopping environment. Like this one, this person said, not for me, since it feels too easy to plagiarize and misuse symbols on the internet. Besides, we also hear voices questioning if this symbol can guarantee a good online pharmacy. One person said, it's possible to have this symbol but not being really legal, but together with other factors, it can be felt legitimate. Here we think it points out a kind of need to understand not only consumers' online shopping behaviors, but also how they conceive signs and symbols, so that the good ones can really communicate with their potential users or consumers. Before we move on to the next survey, I would like to show some insights. So from the quotes and analysis we just presented, we can see people have really negotiable risk awareness. For example, they have trust in sourcing information online, but they don't really trust the authorized symbol, and not to mention the medicalization of medical expertise. Then the next question we want to ask how we can delineate people's risk-balancing behaviors in the consumer society, where health or maybe medicines are commoditized and people have to take responsibility for their own body. We therefore need knowledge about norms and values that guide people's actions, and we also want to take into consideration the various global and economic mechanisms where the activities of selling, producing, and transporting medicines take place. The next survey we did, it's really fresh. We did a survey with doctors in Sweden during May and June 2016. And we targeted altogether 200 respondents, with half of them from the primary care and the other half from the acute care. With this survey, we aim to know how much the Swedish doctors know about the phenomenon, and what kind of experiences they have, and what further knowledge they need. In other words, how we can better help them or provide knowledge and tools. So in this survey, the interesting part is it's worth noting that not all doctors in Sweden have heard of the term illegal and falsified medicines. We have only 73% from the acute care and 84% from the primary care have heard of it. And they got this information mainly through media, colleagues, and patient-related events at work. And the next point, approximately 1/3 of both groups of doctors have met patients whom they suspected have taken illegal or falsified medicines, mostly because patients said so themselves or when unusual side effects happened. About 3/4 of all respondents want to know more about illegal and falsified medicines, preferably in the form of online education, written materials, and lectures. In the following, I'm going to present two highlighted issues. The first one is, what medicines do doctors think most problematic in Sweden, and where do doctors think patients get them? We learned from today's conference and also literature that in many parts of the world, antimalarials is really problematic. But in Sweden, sedatives, analgesics, and antibiotics, sleeping pills, painkillers, antibiotics, these are most problematic. And doctors think patients get them mainly from the internet or during travels abroad. There are some respondents who have particularly pointed out the use of antibiotics during patients' travel abroad to that in Sweden. Like, we have one comment. The antibiotics policies are more generous than here in Sweden. And another person said, the treatment with antibiotics abroad is always problematic, partly due to the risk of falsified drugs, partly due to the overtreatment and resistance to antibiotics. But we have one doctor actually reflects that the treatments patients receive abroad, they don't always follow the same standard as that in Sweden. Is this right or wrong? Here, we think that this is particularly interesting because it points out different medical practices, even health beliefs that are embedded in different cultures. And the next issue I want to highlight is when we ask, what would you do when you strongly suspected your patients were taking illegal or falsified medicines? We realize that our respondents choose to take a variety of strategies to deal with that. Over 60 doctors from both groups say they would inform the patients about the danger of taking falsified medicines and try to persuade them from using it. For example, this quote said, "I would dissuade and inform that it can be harmful, even life-threatening." And some of our respondents also said they would discuss with their managers, report to the police or some other authorities, including Medical Products Agency. However, a number of doctors answered really honestly that they don't know what to do. Take detailed account, but don't know what more I can do than documenting in the journal. From these various answers, we can see that what might be needed is probably a well-established reporting system where our doctors can be well-informed and they are able to follow up the cases whenever it occurs. And it also points out the importance of relevant knowledge developed in the medical professional education. So with all these, we come to the insights. We think doctors can play at least two roles, preventative and supervisory role, in combating falsified medicines. By the former, preventative roles, we think they can communicate the risks beforehand with patients about shopping medicines online or consuming medicines from unauthorized sources. By the latter, supervisory role, we think doctors they work on the front line. They probably be the first person to identify and report whenever cases occur. But the question is, how can doctors play these roles and what tools they need and to whom they report? How can they report? These are the questions we think are important. And the next insight, medical practices are culturally embedded. By this we mean that while Swedish doctors may have a second opinion about their patients who receive treatments abroad, but it would be arbitrary to judge other cultures' medical practices and even health beliefs, as one doctor in our survey has pointed out. Therefore, there's need to develop tools and information for our doctors in the battle against falsified medicines, while on the other hand, in this globalized era, we need to be aware of all these different medical practices and respect them. So for the conclusion, we have done this preliminary work and pilot studies. So next we're going to go more qualitative by doing interviews and ethnography and comparative studies in South Africa and probably China. Elmer Müller will be our research partner in South Africa. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very, very much. Is there any direct questions to you? Please.
I'm Margareta Troing-Tölborn. There's one big difference between the studies, really, and that is that the doctor study can be generalized to a greater extent to the doctors in Sweden by the method we've picked them. But the Lyme survey to the public is not done that way. People have volunteered to give their statement on the internet, and we can't generalize to the general public. So, but it's a pilot study, and being a medical doctor, I'm very well aware of the difference. And I think since there are some medical doctors, they shoot me otherwise if I don't tell that. Thank you.
Yes, and I think that's why it's so important to have this interdisciplinary research and opinions so that we can combine the cultural and medical thinkings together.
Okay, just one question. Erik Malmqvist said that there may be some groups that there is social injustice perhaps behind this. Undocumented migrants, he mentioned, and other groups that may have less trust in healthcare, the Swedish healthcare system. Can you conclude anything on this from your study? Is there any empirical evidence that these are the target groups?
You mean immigrant?
Yes.
Mean immigrant?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. We did the survey with the public, and as I mentioned, over 90% of them are Swedish nationality, and so the number of immigrants are really limited. So it's really hard to draw any conclusion from this small amount. But I think that's an area worth more investigation. We know immigrants, especially nowadays, Sweden is facing more challenges. So I think more researches can be done in that area.
Thank you very much.